They may not be the best football team in America week in and week out, but when Ohio State's on its A game, brings the A effort, and even despite all the mistakes, I believe we've got the most talented football team in America in Columbus, Ohio. They defeat Penn State despite all the miscues, myriads of them offensively, defensively, and especially on special teams. Classic. Instant classic, instant analysis from Mark Rogers TV on Ohio State's 39-38 win over Penn State, trailing 14-0 right out of the gate. I don't have to go necessarily down all the key moments. Most of you watched the game, but the Buckeyes trailed like that, 14-0. Saquon Barkley got the Penn State Nittany Lions on the board. He arrived as the Heisman favorite, maybe left town, not necessarily as the Heisman favorite, may have left that guy behind, but he got Penn State on the board quickly at 7-0 and showed why he is the best back in America and certainly the best multi-purpose back in America. Paris Campbell put it on the ground and Ohio State trailed 14-0 again, just like that. And it didn't just feel like Ohio State was down 14-0. It seemed much more than that because of the expectations placed on this team and this program in general, because Penn State had shown the week prior against Michigan, basically because this Penn State team has played well against good opponents in the clutch, i.e. Iowa on the road last year in the Rose Bowl against USC, and in beating Ohio State last year in Happy Valley, that Ohio State, unless they were the far superior team, this particular bunch of Buckeyes had yet to really prove anything against a tremendous opponent, excluding the Michigan game at home, in which they were fortunate to come out with a win. JT Barrett was exceptional. I really didn't put a particular conclusion on what the struggles were the past couple years. I didn't think it was Barrett first and foremost. I think he factored into it. And we've talked about it a zillion times. If you're joining me for the first time here on Mark Rogers TV, we provide you analysis constantly, 24/7, 365 with the best bloggers and broadcasters in the business. So you'll see the analysis all over the place. Dissecting JT Barrett's game. Big numbers against lesser opponents, against the 4 top 5 ranked opponents in his last few games going back to last season. No touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Against everyone else, 29 touchdowns, no interceptions until tonight. I think it was mostly wide receivers dropping the ball, running bad routes, not separating from DBs. But tonight, we saw Johnny Dixon emerge in the second half. We saw KJ Hill, who has been the most consistent performer on the outside. He's not going to make huge plays. He doesn't have that kind of speed, but he finds the zones. He finds the hole in the zone, and he makes outstanding catches in space and knows how to play the wide receiver role. Terry McLaurin with a big catch on the post pattern that really got the offense jump started after the 14-0 deficit. But JT Barrett hit on his last 17 passes, threw 4 touchdown passes, 33 of 39, more than 100 yards with his legs, converted the final first down that sealed the win, and the Buckeyes move on. All right. One other thing needs to be noted about Ohio State was the tremendous play by its defensive line. So we talked all week about if the Ohio State defensive line didn't overmatch, didn't play up to its billing versus the weakest unit on the field for Penn State, its offensive line, that it could be a long day for the Buckeyes because Trace McSorley would have time to throw. He would also have time to scramble and make plays with his legs. So we saw that. Definitely, McSorley made some tremendous plays and threw the ball reasonably well. Didn't have an outstanding passing game, but he's not a tremendous top-flight passer. He's a top-flight quarterback, one of the 10 best in the nation, his total game taking into consideration. But Ohio State's pass rush in the fourth quarter, when it counted, really came to play and dominated this football game. I cannot remember a better defensive effort for a team that gave up 38 points, but you have to take it all into consideration. The kickoff return for special teams, which completely ruined Ohio State's kickoff situation for the rest of the game because they went with the pooch kicks. They went with the line drive, the squib kicks along the ground, which set up Penn State in excellent field position over and over and over and over. For future reference, Urban Meyer, go find the guy somewhere in America who doesn't necessarily need to kick it through the uprights, but can kick a football as far as you need it to be kicked out of the end zone. Get that guy on the 105-man roster. Penn State, again, talking Ohio State first, the defensive effort was tremendous because you take out the kickoff return against the special teams. Denzel Ward made an interception. That was actually the Damon Webb interception in the corner with a pass interference call that was completely bogus. Awful call by the officials that gave Penn State the other shot, and they converted the touchdown. So that was a stop by the Ohio State defense. They worked on a short field a zillion times. Ohio State's defense was dominant. I think the yardage indicates how talented Ohio State is versus Penn State. And we're talking about legitimately one of the 5 best teams in the country in Penn State. They're going to drop in the rankings, of course. They're going to suffer the penalty of the loss, but I'm still going to rank them rather highly based on this performance and what they've done to date. Ohio State still has issues all over the place. 4 false starts along the right side of the offensive line. They have issues in kickoff coverage and kicking the ball downfield. They have to fix that before they play the rest of the meat of their schedule, even though they've taken out now the best team on their regular season schedule, the Buckeyes, with a date at Iowa. So everybody's celebrating Ohio State winning the Big Ten because, of course, they're going to beat Wisconsin. And, of course, they're going to run the table in the East. Let's slow it down. This team showed what they can bring in the second half, but they have not done this consistently against good top-flight opponents. Tremendous win, huge win for Ohio State. But again, they're going to have to go to Iowa next week and turn in a similar effort against a less talented team, but on the road. And we know what Iowa did against Penn State. They fought them tooth and nail. They had a perfect game plan, and they executed it down to the final play of the game. So Ohio State's going to be able to have to come back from this, get back up to go on the road and face a game Iowa team that's really not that talented, but their front seven on defense is good and the offensive line is solid. All right, for Penn State, is the season over? Well, in terms of championship aspirations, you would think so, because Ohio State most likely is going to win the rest of its games and win the Big Ten. Therefore, Penn State loses out on the tiebreaker. They don't get to go to the Big Ten championship game. And there you go. And unlike the situation last year where Ohio State got the nod, Penn State wouldn't be facing a team most likely with 2 losses in Ohio State if the Buckeyes run the table. And they will not have that Oklahoma win that Ohio State had last year. So Penn State needs Ohio State to lose twice. That's what it comes down to. They need the Buckeyes to lose 2 games because they are not, again, they do not have the out-of-conference resume. Just a few notes. I'm all over the place on my notes. Barkley's tremendous, as we know, but the Ohio State defense, when you've got 10 or 11 really quick, fast guys against a guy that's quicker and faster than all of them, but you've got 10 or 11, then sometimes you can do what Ohio State did against Saquon Barkley today. Mike Gesicki's a tremendous player at tight end. He's got an NFL future, no question about that. He made a tremendous play that appeared to be a backbreaker for the Buckeyes once they had come back to within 1 score. 3rd and 13, they were harassing McSorley. He threw it up down the left sideline, back shoulder, and Gesicki outfought the defender for the football and really boxed him out and used his volleyball basketball skills. Mike Gesicki making some tremendous plays downfield. And McSorley, on one of the key drives late in the game, broke out of a 3rd and 11 and converted. So he is a tremendous player, as we know from watching Penn State's run last year to the Rose Bowl, but not a great precision passer. The precision passer on this day was J.T. Barrett. That final drive was classic. Not trying to overuse the term, I rarely say it, classic. He threw the ball, as Gus Johnson said on the game broadcast a number of times, in a shoebox. tremendous plays. I was a bit critical of the Ohio State game plan coming out of the chute. They got J.K. Dobbins loose a number of times, but continued to throw bubble screens and wide receiver screens and any kind of screen that they can throw. They seem to love the horizontal game. I know that Urban Meyer believes that he's got the best speed in the country and he likes to utilize it that way. But many of the times they don't have blockers in front and they haven't proven and stretched the field yet. And they have the defense all over them. Fortunately for them, it saved the game that they went away from that in the second half because that was not working. The swing passes to the running backs, the bubble screens, and the underneath screens to the wide receivers. Build your game plan not on screens. Screens are supposed to complement an offense. And this team, talking Ohio State, doesn't even throw screens where they let the back in the flat with two blockers in front, let the defensive pass rush in on the quarterback and dump it over. You don't see those kind of screens. That would be perfect for J.K. Dobbins. One particular drive was just microcosm of the Ohio State approach. J.K. Dobbins gets loose for 20 or 25 yards, sets them up in field goal range, and they should have went for the jugular. No, they went for the screen plays. They threw the ball 3 consecutive times after they had run it successfully. Didn't go back to the run. So Urban Meyer needs to get back to power running. And based on the JT Barrett that we saw tonight, that we've seen for the last 4 or 5 weeks since Oklahoma, we just didn't know if it would convert and translate to the better teams. He can throw it. He doesn't have an elite arm, but his arm is strong enough. He can rip the throws downfield, and he certainly did in this game. For Penn State, they've got a date with Michigan State, and again, they're hoping that the Buckeyes lose some combination of games to 2 of 3 to Michigan, Michigan State, and Iowa for them to back into the Big Ten championship game because of what I noted earlier, winning as an at-large to get to the college football playoff. Just not going to happen for Penn State this year unless there is complete chaos elsewhere in the country. Ohio State in good shape in the rankings because TCU and also, of course, Penn State lost on this day. Ohio State started at number 6. People have criticized me for ranking them lower than everybody else, but I was ranking them based on their resume, which was not impressive before this game. Not rating them on the talent on the field. Again, the track record, the resume. They will rise considerably in my poll, which is a poll of 1 on Sunday. For Penn State, again, it's the Michigan State game. They're a tremendous football team, but they will need to lick their wounds as the defending Big Ten champions who had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter against Ohio State, and they had all the swag working, the momentum, the team that had come through in the clutch versus the disappointing team, the team that was underachieving. The storyline seemed to be written, but Penn State let it slip away against a more talented football team. Ohio State 39-38. We will, of course, provide instant analysis of a number of games tonight and more on the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions as they move forward this week to more difficult games. Michigan State and Iowa will not be pushovers. Would love to hear from you now on Mark Rogers TV.